We are especially excited to open this exhibit. This is the most ambitious fashion exhibition that the CMA has ever put on. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our visionary behind this exhibition, CMA Curator of Fashion. Please help me welcome Darnell Lisby.
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all so much for coming out today to celebrate the opening weekend for Renaissance to Runway, the Enduring Italian Houses. It is such an honor to be able to do here at the Cleveland Museum of Art with such incredible support, including from Nancy McCann and the John P. Murphy Foundation, as well as our incredible and magnanimous donors, and of course the amazing staff that and the team and colleagues that I work with, that I couldn't do it without them. So I'm so grateful for all of them. This is, I guess, a little bit of a first, because typically with press previews, we just let you kind of go in, you take pictures. So I thought maybe do something a little bit different, in which I may explain a little bit of background, a little backstory to the development of Renaissance to Runway. Normally don't talk about these things. They know here that I don't like talking about secrets, so I'm going to break a little rules today. And so with Renaissance to Runway, the show and the concept itself derived from, of course, certainly we all have taken art history classes, and certainly many of us have started with Western art, particularly Italian Renaissance. And so that's something I wanted to kind of circle back to, and of course with my own previous knowledge of Italian fashion from over the course of my career, I often saw a lot of examples of Italian creatives over the course of the last century, and how they remarkably complicate the imagination of Italian modern art history, but also social histories and political histories. And certainly personally, I see a lot of similarities between the past and the present that help me understand not only fashion design process, but also our human histories. And so I wanted to way to merge all of those inclinations together, not only through the exhibition, but also through the catalog itself. And so as I was going and flipping through so many different artworks, and of course walking through our own remarkable galleries here at the CMA, I began to think about different collections, different runway shows, whether it's Pier Paolo Piccioli's Valentino collections, or Camille Meseli's collections for Pucci that you see here that I have in conversation in the exhibition with the Sforza altarpiece, or thinking about Alessandro Michele when he was at Gucci and now at Valentino, and seeing how all of these exaggerations of something so simple, from a dress or a doublet or a ruff, or even the conceptual aspects of Italian that are embedded within Italian early modern art, from whether it's talking about masculinity, femininity, gender neutrality, all of it, religion, and how that's very much embedded within, again, the history of Italian fashion. And so there's certain, throughout the show, I wanted to have these anchor moments, these vignettes that really kind of drive through the past and the present. This is one of my favorites for the show. We brought down our Veronese, which is typically located in the Italian Renaissance section of the museum. And I also wanted, and just to have an aside, I wanted this moment to also be a way that our audiences, and y'all here and our audiences beyond, locally and abroad, to rethink and relook and reanalyze a lot of Italian art history in a way that connects with us, right? Many of us participate in fashion. We wear it, we consume it, we love it. And so why not see that pass through the portals that fashion can create? And so this is one of the vignettes, and we'll come back to this in a little bit and explain it in the broader scheme of things. But throughout the exhibition, I wanted it to be these large moments larger than life, to create a level of escapism. And the first thing that you'll see in the exhibition will be a digital installation that we made originally in collaboration with Francesco Cherrazzini, a world-renowned creative director, son of the famed Franca Cesani, who passed away some years ago. She was the 40-year editor-in-chief of Vogue Italia that created the Italian fashion that I know. And so we worked with Francesco. He brought on another renowned artist, Henry Hargraves, to create this digital installation, which is basically the energy center for the exhibition that shows really not only my imagination, but their imaginations as artists about this intersection between art and fashion. Certainly they use AI because we do have a rule here. We do not want people wearing archival materials. That's very bad for conservation. Otherwise, it would have you on pitchforks. So we don't want that. But that said, it is absolutely a stunning display, and they worked with our incredible digital team with Jane Alexander, Jeff, and Tessa to create what you'll be able to experience as you'll enter into the exhibition. These are the individuals, Francesco in the middle, Henry to your right, and then Josh Burgess created this. It was the sound producer for that particular experience. So I hope you get a little energy from the installation itself. And moving into the show, I divided the exhibition into several kind of points that I found very prominent and consistent. And as I was looking through our own textile collection, which I was so happy to bring out because I don't have many opportunities to talk about textile material culture often over the course of my career. So this was like a great opportunity to bring out some beautiful tapestries, some gorgeous velvet stoles and textile fragments, and have them in conversation and really kind of create the setting and the imagination that the designers who are in conversation with said textiles are evoking. And so this is one of the counterpoints that you'll see, including, which is this beautiful Franco Moschino coat with the scene of Florence embroidered on the back, beaded on the back, in dialogue with this Medici tapestry. On the front of the coat, you'll see the Medici coat of arms, which are corresponding to the coat of arms that are in the center of the tapestry themselves. The tapestry is very massive, so it'll be a lot of you kind of getting up close, but make sure you make room for other people to see when you get into the space itself. Additionally, I wanted to talk about brocades, of course, Florentine brocades, and then how that has matriculated, the radiance has matriculated and transcended throughout time, including through laminated pigments that we see not only recently in Marco De Vincenzo's collection for Etro about 2 years ago or a year ago, but also 100 years earlier in Mariano Fortuni's Delphos mantle that we have from the Uffizi. So for the exhibition, just to kind of also say, there's about 80 fashions and another 40 accessories from across 18 fashion houses, 3 additional fashion house heritage foundations, and 5 museum sister institutions globally. So it's a very encompassing show from so many different resources that I'm so grateful that we were able to show. And so throughout the exhibition, I wanted to kind of set y'all in that space of what it would feel like as if you were going back and forth through these dimensions, whether in Florentine, Italy, or whether you're in Venice specifically, as well as implemented within a lot of the materials. One of another favorite pairing, specifically, we have quite a bit of jewelry from Buccellati and Bulgari throughout the show. And of course, as a fashion historian, I'm obligated to love lace. And so we do have a lace moment in the exhibition, several lace moments in the exhibition, including this Ramage foliage-inspired, lace-inspired bracelet by Mario Buccellati, the founder of the Buccellati House, in the show. So this is from the 1920s, in dialogue with some of our Venetian lace from our own collection. And then in the next part of the exhibition, I wanted to kind of highlight really a survey of fashion history from 1450, 60s to about 1630, and how those different elements are exaggerated and expanded across contemporary Italian fashion. One of my favorite intersections, we do have this Versace dress that was worn by this young starlet, if you know who she is, in the show. and obviously with Jeanne Versace and as well as Donatella, they used their brand, their heritage house to kind of subvert masculine codes, to really kind of equate women empowerment and really kind of finding strength and femininity in different, in a range and a spectrum of what that looks like within their particular aesthetics, and this is of course no different. And then looking at our own artwork, you know, we have, I call him my dear friend, this portrait of a friend, of a man, and it is absolutely stunning with his large shamar coat. And one of the words that very much rooted me in this entire show was the word spletitura, you know, this nonchalance, this elegance that one carries, and certainly he is emblematic of it, and seeing how that transcends via the bravado of masculinity that was very much high style during the Italian early modern period, into the more kind of surreal, campy styles of Glenn Martin's designs for Diesel. And I wanted to kind of show that relationship of how we see it today, but then how they saw it then. Again, there's additional examples of more accessories, including shoes from the Ferragamo Museum, including this beautiful rainbow sandal that Salvatore Ferragamo made for Judy Garland in celebration of Wizard of Oz, but he was also just a maestro shoemaker in terms of combining his love of the foot anatomy and his studies of foot anatomy that he did at, I believe, University of Southern California, in combination with his love of dress and art history, particularly Renaissance art history. He loved the Chopinette, so he wanted to combine art history and dress history with science to really create one of, you know, the most iconic shoes in the world. Of course, we have more jewelry, but one of the aspects I wanted to kind of soften out in the show is also talking about pearls. Pearls are, you know, of course, a sense of femininity, but now we see them very much in a very gender-neutral context. So highlighting how these elements that seem, you know, a little more aesthetic, but during the early modern period, and from what we gather, but actually had a lot of resonance during that time period in terms of not only human connection, but also in terms of how people saw one another throughout time. And so I wanted to kind of have Buccellati and Bulgari both together to really kind of illuminate this essence and how they've seen it throughout the ages, because you have the Bulgari necklace from the 70s, and then you have this beautiful necklace from Buccellati on the right, in the middle, that was actually recently made a few years ago. And so it's something that's very consistent, but then also the conversation between the pearls, I wanted to also kind of illuminate, particularly in the catalog and also in the show, the idea about how someone like Mario Buccellati, who built his brand on the identity of Italian Renaissance goldsmiths, and also connecting to someone like Sandro Botticelli, who apprenticed as a goldsmith, shows these kind of very much embedded aspects of Italianness that transcends through time. Again, moving through, there's another section called Devotional Glamour that, you know, very much is like a full circle moment. I was an intern on the Heavenly Bodies show back in New York, and so I used some of the research that I stored and teased it out for this moment, for Renaissance to Runway, and again wanted to kind of narrow down on the Italian story, the Italian implications of this conversation, because Heavenly Bodies was much more broad, much more global, beyond Italy. But I wanted to kind of highlight how did Italians feel about this history. And some Italian designers and creatives are a little more religious and spiritual, while others just love the opulence of the grandeur of Italian early modern Catholic and Christian imagery. So I wanted to put them all together in this exhibition, in that particular section, and having dialogues with one another. This is actually one of the oldest pieces in the show, which you'll see in this section. It's a prayer book cover by Bulgari from the late 19th century. And certainly you see the moment of Christ, the passion of Christ and his resurrection in the book. And we have that in conversation with one of our books from the mid-15th century that particularly highlights the Eucharist. And so again, these particular intersections are something I wanted to string along to have a beautiful visual story, but also in the way that I'm thinking about things. I think a lot of people ask me oftentimes, where does my inspiration come from? And it's like, well, I look at the world just like you do. I watch Housewives just like you do. I do. I love, my oatmeal cream pies just like you do. And I take inspiration from any and everywhere and bring them together and see and illuminate and tease out. And then from there, that's when the academic rigor really kind of transcends throughout my process as a curator. In the final section, Artistic Impressions, it's really the other side of the coin of devotional glamour. And really, it's more looking at secular works, looking at works that are about, these masterworks, master artworks that have served as a source of inspiration for so many designers, including Botticelli's Primavera. And then you'll see a moment about his Birth of Venus also in the exhibition, and thinking about the different floral studies that were implemented within this painting and how that was used as a resource for designers. And I think about, there's a moment in the show where we're talking about the famous Gucci floral print. During the 60s, the artists were very much taken by Botticelli's floral study and implemented that print that has become the iconic Gucci imagery. Then, of course, Caravaggio, there's another Bulgari dialogue with this beautiful Medusa necklace. And then, of course, I start with textiles and I end with textiles. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about Baroque textiles as well, and seeing how, that kind of surreal elements also transcend through a little more of the campy sides of Italian fashion. Again, as I mentioned in the video, the flair of it all. And so you'll see a few breadcrumbs in the show. I wanted to pay a moment of tribute and just of course, put in our minds about those who built this particular realm of fashion, like Rosita Mazzoni, who passed away earlier this year, and of course, Giorgio Armani, who passed very recently. We wanted to kind of do a moment and honor their legacies in building the Italian fashion industry that I know it to be, that we all know it to be. And it's through their kind of creative ingenuity that, we've not only grown to understand how fashion can be just completely imaginative, but how it can be just so internally fruitful. And certainly there is a catalog, and it is coming. We're so excited. It's printed, bound, it's on its way, and it was art directed by Luca Stolpini. So he was the former Vogue Italia creative director for 30 years. He worked alongside Franca Cesani, so there's a lot of kind of family overlap, which is very Italian. And I thought, why not? Luca did some incredible original photography for the book with a handful of fashions. And this is his own kind of implication on this particular intersection of the past and present merging. And so we went to Milan, shot a lot of the fashions, and he edited the book, designed it, and I told him, I want you to go back and think about the time that you were at Vogue in the 90s and recreate the catalog in that image, and he did. So I have an advanced copy. It's beautiful, I guarantee it, and it is on its way. We did have exhibition catalog contributors who I'm also grateful for, including our the exhibition consultant, Alessandra Arezza-Boza, who is a dear friend, and I'm just so grateful for her. She actually helped build a lot of the archives of the fashion houses that are presented in the show. So having her knowledge, I couldn't have done the show without her knowledge. And then I mentioned him a little earlier, Dr. Matteo Gello, or mentioned his concept of Italianness a little earlier. I transcribed a conversation between him and I about his book, Curating Italian Fashion. And then one of my close friends, Luke Marr, he's a fashion critic and social media influencer with the moniker Hot La Mode, and we transcribed a conversation about the state of Italian fashion. And then I reached out to the director of the Ferragamo Museum, who partnered with us for the show, in which the director, Stefano Ricci, wrote a beautiful essay about Salvatore Ferragamo and his love of Italian Renaissance. And then similarly, I reached out to Massimiliano Capella, director of the House Museum of the Paolo and Carolina Zani Foundation for Art and Culture, to write a beautiful essay about Missoni as well. But that said, that's all I have for you, and I'm going to have Todd come back out and release you. But thank y'all so much for just your support. Thank you for coming out, and I pray that you tell your friends and family about it. And please have a good time. Thank you so much.